Welcome back to the Team to Beat Miami Heat podcast. My name is Amir. For today's episode, I have two special guests, two reoccurring guests, and two of the fastest rising young stars from the Five Reasons Sports Network. I got Matt Hanifan and Major Passons. What's up, guys?
What's going on? What's going on? Thank you for having us as always, man.
Yeah, thank you. Always fun.
No problem. Thanks for joining again. So we all know the Miami Heat got destroyed in game one. I think it was 114-94. And the game wasn't really close outside of the comeback in the first quarter. And I guess that kind of fake comeback in the fourth quarter where DeLon Wright hit 5 threes in a row and had 17 points in like 20 minutes. Obviously, we know he's an amazing defender, but he gave us a little bit of hope, I guess, but it was a little bit too late at that point. And there's a lot of things we could talk about game one. I don't want to reference it too much. I think I want to focus more on previewing game two. And I have no expectations for this series. I mean, once Jimmy Butler was diagnosed with that MCL strain, and we knew that Terry Rozier was going to be week to week and missing at least the first 3 games of the series, I had no real expectations. I was just hoping to watch Tyler increase his stock, Bam increase his stock, just trying to see what this build could look like in the future if Jimmy Butler retires and Bam and Herro are 2 cornerstone players, along with the other 2 I'm calling the big 4, Jaime and Jovic, our Jays. Both of those guys played really well, so we can talk about that. But first, I just want to see and get your guys' opinion on game 2. What are things we could do to adjust? Spo has 2 days, as people say, which I think is kind of comical because I know we have 2 days, but we don't have Jimmy Butler, so it's going to be tough to win no matter what. But Matt, do you think we can bounce back in any way and make this series competitive?
No. Just to give you the very blunt answer. I mean, there's obviously things that you can adjust to help mitigate the gap a little bit. Like, you could potentially give DeLon Wright an expendable. You could potentially play Tyler a little more off the ball. I mean, he really struggled on the ball. He shot 4 of 13, 11 points, 4 rebounds, 4 assists. Like, it felt like for him, when you're matched up against Derek White, when you're matched up against Drew Holiday, it's a tough battle. Like, them trying to navigate, like, you're always going to get Tyler and Bam, like that 2-man game, and like trying to free Tyler up. He was getting blocked from behind a couple of times from those guys because those guys are both incredible shot blockers, both very good screen navigators. And so, like, even when Tyler's off the ball, it's going to make it a little bit tough. But, like, you can initiate offense a little bit through Jaime Jaquez and Nikola Jovic a little bit more. There's multiple ways that you can do that. And then also just on the defensive end, like, it felt like, yeah, Boston started – they didn't start – I mean, they started out on a 14-0 run, but throughout the course of the first quarter, they weren't like super duper hot from deep, but then like you allow Sam Hauser to get those couple of threes off rotation by doubling in the zone. I wonder how Spo goes about that. Like, if he's going to stick with zone, if he's going to stick with man, how is he going to incorporate that 2-2-1 a little bit more just to make things a little bit more physical for Boston? Like, is he going to make Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown play one-on-one instead of trying to double them, whether they're in the corner, whether they're in the wing? Like, what's the adjustment that Spo's going to make? Because, like, I honestly expected him to just throw everything at the wall in game one, and I don't think we completely saw that. And then it's just like, considering how spaced out Boston is, they hit 22 threes, but like their guys they're making threes from 28, 29, 30 feet, and those guys are capable of doing that. Like, it's not an aberration that Peyton Pritchard's hitting 30-foot threes. It's not an aberration that Kristaps Porzingis is hitting 28, 30. Like, it's just not an aberration for some of these guys. And so you just have to figure out a way. Like, yeah, some of them are tough contested shots, but I feel like as the game went on, considering they were in rhythm and considering they saw a couple go through, shooting can be contagious. So that's why they knocked down 22 threes, attempting over 60% of their shots from deep, or around 60%. So, like, there's ways that you can adjust. But, like, if you're asking me, do I think Miami could bounce back? Like, bounce back in what way? Do I think they're going to win the game? No. Do I think they can close that gap a little bit by a few tweaks? Yes. All they really need to do is just hang around, and hopefully you can get some late burst from Herro, from Bam, from Jaquez, from Jovic, from even like DeLon Wright, or maybe you can get Caleb Martin or Haywood Highsmith and knock down a few shots. Then you can maybe win the game. But do I see that right now? I don't. I don't see them winning. Again, maybe they can cut it to single digit. Maybe they can hang around a little bit, but I just think Boston's too talented for Miami to steal a game in Boston, unfortunately.
Yeah, when I said bounce back, I tried to add keep it competitive, bouncing back by keeping it competitive. And I know they had small stints and runs in the first quarter and the fourth quarter where they were a little bit competitive. But yeah, I think I was frustrated watching that we were blitzing and double teaming Jason Tatum and Jalen Brown too early. And that's how Hauser got 4 of his 6 3-pointers wide open in the corner. We were leaving Porzingis because we're not going to double team Porzingis, but we were double teaming Jason Tatum like almost immediately, which I thought was a little frustrating because the Boston Celtics are the number one 3-point shooting team in the NBA, averaging almost 39%. And we obviously know they're a prolific, historic offensive team, number one offensive rated team in the NBA, but also number two in defense. So this is a huge juggernaut. So I think that's one adjustment is just trying to play Jason Tatum more straight up and probably put maybe Haywood on him, obviously off the bench, maybe start DeLon Wright and play him or Caleb on him. Probably need Caleb because he has a little bit more size. But yeah, it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough to stop them from hitting threes just in general. Just 1 through 5, they can all hit 3-pointers, and then obviously Horford, Pritchard, and a few others off the bench can. And I don't know what the answer is, Major. I want to ask you in terms of like the defensive adjustment because it's hard to play zone when they have a 7'2" unicorn who could play at the nail, and he's not a bad facilitator, and he could literally shoot over anybody, including Bam Adebayo, who's 6'9", and it's tough. I think he is the answer to the zone. Like it's tough to allow the best 3-point shooting team in the NBA have open shots. So, Major, what are your thoughts? I know you're the optimistic one. Can the Heat bounce back? And then also the second part would be like, what can they do defensively to bounce back?
Okay, so a lot of people thought game one was the Heat's best chance to steal one in Boston. I had always said game two. Is it gonna happen? Probably not. Like, I'm not gonna sell that much hope, but I mean, I thought game one was a very good chance of being a blowout. For the exact opposite reasons everyone thought the Heat had a chance. I mean, like, you got to think the Celtics, they had rest. They're not playing Jimmy. That's their kryptonite, right? Like Jimmy's gone nuclear against them numerous times. Then they have lost to us several times, and we are their kryptonite. The ones that just for whatever reason, even whenever they beat us in 7, it was way longer than it really should have been on paper. It's the one that we give them the most trouble out of anyone. So they have that in their mind. They have everything. They're the 1 seed. They should minimum make the finals pretty easily in the Eastern Conference, right? So I thought they would come out firing. Like they wanted to make a statement. They know no Jimmy. They're trying to kill us. I thought game 2 was the best because they did win big. They killed us. Like there's really no like way you can like alter that. Is the game was a lot, bigger of a blowout than even the score showed for most of the game. And so maybe, I mean, they even mentioned it in their post-game interview saying, human nature can play a part. Jason Tatum literally said that. So they know that they're susceptible to, thinking it's done. So maybe you come out, you throw the kitchen sink in game 2 because game 1, I assume they had more adjustments, but it just went to crap so soon. Yeah, you're not going to throw everything trying to come back from 30. That's just not good 7-game series strategy, right? So throw some stuff out. I would start DeLon. I think not just because of his 3-point shooting. Like if he's hitting shots like that, it's a no-brainer. He has to play a ton. But his defense, I think, is very critical to this team. And Caleb's kind of been subpar recently. So I would go Herro. I know he struggled, but I keep saying this and it's controversial. Herro's their best shot at winning a game, at least until Terry Rozier comes back. They need him to get hot. Is it likely? I mean, Drew's like the worst possible matchup in the NBA for him, so probably not. Then you try to attack switches and everyone else is a good defender. So there's really not a good option for Herro. He's going to have to make some tough shots. But start DeLon, Herro, Jaquez, obviously. That kid's going to be a star. Jovic, and then Bam. And I think you just got to hope you don't, go down like 17-2 or whatever it was. Because, I mean, you just can't come back from Boston down 17-2. You just got to be that pesk. Don't let them think, oh, yeah, we killed them. and they're not going to come back. I don't care if they lose all the first 4 games, if they get swept. They just got to keep trying, man. We know they're without Jimmy, and they really stand no legit chance. But you gotta keep coming back. So I'm not going to sell that hope on game 2, but I do think there's a lot bigger chance they win game 2 than they would have won game 1.
Yeah. So you mentioned you think Tyler is essentially the X factor in offense to help us win a single game. So how do we activate him? Because one, you got Matt mentioned Drew Holiday, one of the best two-way players, one of the best defenders in the last decade. Derek White, best shot blocking guard in the NBA, also just like a all NBA type of defensive talent. Like the biggest strength with Boston on defense is they don't have to switch, right? They will rotate. They're good at rotating, but like they don't need to worry about switching because again, you can't hunt them. If Tyler can get downhill past a Drew, a Derek White, then he has to deal with a Porzingis, a Jaylen Brown, a Horford off the bench, even who's not a slouch even at his age, 35. So how do we get him off ball when we don't really have any folks that can create their own shot, outside of a Bam Adebayo, who can distribute, like who could play make? I know Bam is kind of our de facto kind of point guard with Terry and Jimmy out. So how do we get him open essentially? Like any thoughts, Matt? Like how to activate Tyler, I guess, because he's obviously needs to step up. He's our highest paid player right now outside of Bam Adebayo and our best scorer with Jimmy out.
I mean, my favorite answer is something that I've wanted Miami to do for a long time is like have Bam initiate like an inverted pick and roll and see if you can get Tyler on the pop. I mean, you could run Tyler off staggered screens off the ball. There's different ways that you can do it. You can do like wide actions. You could have him set a screen on ball for somebody and then subsequently get like a flare screen or something like that. I don't know. There's just different ways that you can try to get him off ball a little bit more instead of like just spamming the pick and roll. Because then I think when you do subsequently spam that pick and roll, there's not a whole lot of movement off ball, which I think hurts the offense. It stagnates the offense a little bit. And I think that's part of the problem with Miami is like the thing with this particular roster and this particular team that's been a trend throughout this year. Like you have certain guys who are like Haywood Highsmith's very good at roaming the baseline. Jaime Jaquez is very good at like making some timely cuts, but this team just generally isn't very good at cutting. And like, that's an issue, especially when sometimes the spacing is compromised, but even then, like when the spacing is compromised, you have guys cut into closed space and there's not enough flow there's not enough intention to why the certain guys are cutting and to where certain guys are cutting. But I think like, there's different, like you can get Tyler off ball. I mean, you could, there's obviously you want a mixed bag a little bit. Like you don't want Tyler to be off ball all the time. Like obviously he's one of your best pull-up shooters. Like he can give you juice in that department too, but it felt like at certain times yesterday, he was forcing the issue in a little bit. And like, he's one of the better, probably one of, if not the best catch and shoot shooters on this team. And so if you can kind of toggle that to not 80-20, cat or pull up versus catch and shoot, but like if you want to get it to closer to like 70-30, 60-40, 50-50, like I think that's a more appropriate diet for him. And then when Boston is forced into long closeouts or whatnot, then Tyler can attack the rim and create off that. Like there's different ways that you can do it in that area. And to answer your question on like who can initiate, like you have really a 6'11" point forward in Nikola Jovic that I don't think they're having him do this yet, but he's certainly capable of doing it. And I want to see him do it more in terms of like him initiating offense. You have Bam Adebayo, who's like a point center who they'll put in delay actions and then they'll do all this stuff with him at the high post above the break and run those back screens, those flare screens or whatnot. Like he's more than capable of initiating offense if he needs to. I mean, even like a DeLon Wright, like just get him quick, just initiate the action, get it started in that action, and then have him do whatever he needs to do off the ball. Like he doesn't have to be your de facto like point guard, but he can just be a guy who can kickstart the offense a little bit. We've seen Caleb do it too, but even though his decision making at times can be a little bit faulty, like there's different guys that you can rely on to do this stuff. Just again, kickstart the action. You don't have to do a whole lot. Just start the action and then play off of whatever action, screens, cuts that the play has. for design. Like you could do all that stuff for Tyler off the ball. Just again, if you can toggle that frequency just a little bit more to where it's less pull up dribble Tyler and more catch and shoot Tyler, and then when he is relied on to create by him, like self-create, that he's capable of doing that, whether it is like again off the catch and off the like what, just toggle that a little bit more to like a 50-50 frequency, maybe not exactly 50-50, but somewhere to where he's not having to take so many pull-up shots and being forced into so many pull-ups, whether they're contested or not.
Yeah, I love the idea of the inverted pick and roll with Bam Adebayo, because Tyler's not the best off-ball movement type player. Like I love the idea of flare screens, but he's not Max.
Yeah,
He's not
yeah.
Max Strus, which we would do those pin downs and flare screens and dunking.
Something to get him moving. Something to get him moving. Like, yeah, he's not. But if you do it by design, maybe he can develop that part of his game just a little bit more. Maybe he could be more willing to do it. But like, yeah, you could do. Duncan does it all the time. Duncan never stops moving. But for Tyler, like I want to see him become more of that player. Not saying he will or won't, but just in this context against this team, you got to be comfortable being uncomfortable. Like you got to play at you got to be. You have to do the little things, and I think again, moving flare screens, pin downs, inverted pick and rolls, even if it's like with Jovic, not even just Bam, but like Jovic too. Like I think just getting him involved in that way and see if you can get him open when he doesn't have the ball in his hands is something that is crucial.
Yeah, I think one thing one of the worst teams at not only finishing at the rim or getting to the rim. Obviously, the appetite for our offense is typically shooting the mid range, and I don't remember the numbers in front of me, but like we typically shoot more mid range shots than threes. The least amount of shots we take are at the rim. We have trouble getting to the rim. Tyler has trouble with that for multiple reasons, but against the Celtics specifically, the big issue is they don't need to double team. So it's hard to break down those defenders. And I think Jovic might be, even Bam, like those are the two guys. It's kind of funny to think that our 4 and 5 probably have the best opportunity to attack the rim from the top of the key, above the break or wherever, versus our guards right now. Like it's going to be difficult for Tyler and whoever else, Caleb, to break their guys off the dribble consistently. So I think in order to play off ball, I think Jovic needs to be more aggressive. He's been improving not only on defense, obviously, but his ability to attack the rim, even in the half court. Like we know transition, he gets the rebound coast to coast. Like he had one really good layup. I think Peyton Pritchard passed Peyton Pritchard / Al Horford. So it's kind of like 1-on-2, but he still was able to finish at the rack. So I think he needs to be a little more aggressive. Same with Bam in terms of trying to drive downhill so they can get that double team to open up just opportunities for Haywood Haysmith, even Caleb, Tyler. And they talked about how they need to shoot more threes because we had a lot of threes that we like had good looks that were created by Jovic, Bam, Tyler, and Caleb and Haywood and a few others. Even Kevin Love have passed up threes. So I know that's one adjustment too, is that we just need to take more threes. We need to live and die by the three. And that's kind of been our like winning factor in our playoff runs with Jimmy Butler. Like typically we've had really good 3-point shooting when we've gone far in the playoffs. Like if we can't shoot well, this team is not good enough, obviously, with our two best players being Jimmy and Bam, who are not the most offensive gifted type of stars compared to other players on other teams. Major, you mentioned Hawkes and Jovic, their experience in their first playoff game and how well they both really did. Let's talk about them a little bit more and how they can increase their value and audition for some other teams potentially this offseason. So what can they do, I guess, just in general to help keep this Miami Heat team competitive? And it looks like you're not willing to trade RJ's, but we can talk about that later. But I am willing to trade both of them, even though I love both of them. But we need someone else to step up named Tyler Herro so he can increase his trade value as well, so we can have a nice little package there. But what do you want to see from our Jays moving forward in the series?
Well, first, I know you came to me with that question on purpose because we literally talked yesterday how I'm not ready for off-season trade talk. So I know that was on purpose. But two, for Hawkes, specifically, like one thing I would love to see, we always call him Mini Jimmy. I mean, he's not the exact same player, but there are a lot of similarities when you watch him play. Like Jaquez does something, you're like, that is Jimmy Butler. One thing I would love to see them do is I always reference the Bucks series because whenever they had to make their big comebacks late in games, they did this exact same thing. Bam had always had the ball at the top of the key or the free throw line around there, maybe like an elbow or something. And then Jimmy was always posting up. And Jaquez can post up. It's about as good as any rookie guard, forward, whatever you want to call him, I've ever seen. His footwork is incredible. I would love to see that action. And then, even we can throw in Tyler Herro to that. If he's moving and, there's 3 other guys on the team, Herro, let's say Jovic and Caleb are on it. You can even throw in someone screening for Herro as he's cutting across the 3-point line. That would be something I would like to see. But Jaquez, I think he's just got to keep the ball in his hands. He was doing phenomenally recently. He's attacking with ferociously. He's not scared of anything. And that was awesome to see for his first playoff game, especially in Boston against that team. He was attacking them straight in the chest. He wasn't afraid to talk to Tatum, as we saw, and kind of complain a little bit, which you see a lot of rookies like to a star like that aren't going to say anything. But Jaquez, immediately said something. He just has that attitude where he's going to attack. So as far as like showing his value to the Heat, because we're not trading him, would be to just continue to grow in those aspects of his game, right? Continue to show he's willing to take the ball, have the ball a little bit more, be a focal point. I think if he increases his passing a little bit, that would be one skill that he could really, I don't think he's a bad passer, but he could really elevate his game with that. Then obviously his streaky 3-point shooting. But that has been known ever since his college days. I mean, if you look at how he shot in college, like one year it's like 40%, the next year is like 25 or something crazy like that. So it's just year by year. So I think those 2 things, his passing and 3-point shooting, could really elevate. Because, I mean, imagine Jaquez at the start of the year when he was shooting ridiculous from 3. He was getting great looks at the rim too. And then he is also willing to take contact. He just does everything you would love for a like hard-nosed player to do and a playoff player. He's built for 16 games, not 82, like we always say. So I love that. For Jovic, I think he's still got to find his role a little bit. He's finding it. He's doing 1,000 times better than I thought he would this year. He's doing phenomenally. Next year's his year to really, I think, just explode and really have a massive role on this team. He offensively gifted is probably maybe the highest on the whole team. Maybe not including Tyler, because I know a lot of people, there's an argument to be made there, right, about Tyler, because Tyler, when he's on, he's incredible too. But Jovic is just 6'11" point guard. Guard handles, amazing passer, really good decision maker. He's like a European, big man. I mean, that's literally what it is. A lot of them you see, they have, they're huge guards and they just play basketball the right way. He's unselfish on the offensive end, and his growth on defense is the reason he's getting minutes here. So I've absolutely loved how Jovic has been doing recently. I think he just needs to continue his level of play, continue to get that experience. And some of those things that he does make mistakes on, even on defense and offense, will iron themselves out as he gets more playing time. So as far as what's most important in this series, every Heat fan should have came in. It doesn't matter really what happens, because even me, the most optimistic Heat fan in the world, we all knew this was not really going to happen, right? So the most important thing was Jovic and Jaquez getting their time to shine and getting those reps on the fly. I really think we could look back at this series and the Bulls game as the start of the Jovic, Jaquez, Bam era. I really think we could. Not saying it's going to happen. I know Matt's looking at me funny, but I think it could happen. Bam's all world. Jaquez is one of the best rookies, and he already earned Spo's trust. You don't need to say anything else. And Jovic has just been in the gym working, and you can see it pay off. and he's still not even remotely touched his ceiling. He might have the highest ceiling on the team, including Bam, which is crazy to say. So, I mean, I don't think you should get rid of any of them, to be fair. I know others would disagree. And I mean, if you're in a conversation for Donovan Mitchell for the 15th year, maybe one of those happens.
I'll disagree, but I love everything you said about Jovic. That guy has not even played. I don't even think he's played more than 75 games combined in his career. From last season, he played 15, played about 60 something this season. So even if we include the play-in and the playoff game, he hasn't even played a full season worth of games yet, which is just incredible, right? So I think next year when he's on the Cavs with his running mate Jaime, and hopefully Tyler, if Tyler can string together two of the, I don't know, Tyler, it's very hard for Tyler to play good back to back. I'm assuming he's going to bounce back in this game. I'm just hoping he can be consistent, increase his trade value. And I don't know if this is too much, but Miami may have learned their lesson after not trading for Dame this offseason and lowballing perhaps. So I'm thinking this could be way too much, but a first round pick, Tyler, Jaime, Jovic, we get Donovan Mitchell, we got our whale. I know, I'm just joking. That's obviously way too much. But we saw what Damian Lillard did yesterday, even though for some reason I can't believe he didn't score a single point, which was not necessary. They still won by double digits against the Pacers yesterday. But Dame had 35 points at halftime, which was equal to what Tyler Herro and Bam scored, which was also equal to what Tyler Herro, Jaime, and Jovic scored. Actually, -1. They scored 36. So I don't know, Matt, would you do that? Sorry, I'm talking about this because I don't know. I think the season's over. Not yet, obviously. I'm hoping the Heat win. I predicted the Celtics in 5. So would you trade both of our Jays if it meant getting Donovan Mitchell? Because we clearly need to get Jimmy help. Jimmy cannot be our 1A anymore at this point. He could be our 1B. I think Mitchell would be a great 1A. What are your thoughts on that before we close?
I wouldn't trade both of them. I wouldn't trade both. I just like – also, you just would need the money to match, and so you're likely going to have to trade Duncan. You would just have to add more to the play unless if you want to trade Terry. Like, I'm not trading both of them. Like, I'm just not doing it. I'm not doing it. Like, I feel like Miami, if they don't get Mitchell, I mean, you could try to add around the fringes for a little bit. And yet, this is a lot of offseason. The Donovan Mitchell thing has been a thing since World War II. Like, I'm just like, at this point, if it happens, great. If it doesn't, great. Like, yes, Miami does need additional help. Yes, they do need a 1A, I guess, type scorer that isn't Jimmy Butler. They do need those things, but what they also need is help around the fringes. They need more functional size. They need some extra 3-level scoring, and potentially Donovan Mitchell is that guy. But if it comes at the cost of giving up both, I'm just not doing it. I'm not doing it. Maybe you could laugh at me in 5 years or 10 years, depending on how their careers pass. Like, I'm just not, as of right now, from what we've seen from them and like from what we've seen with this organization when it comes to developing players, I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet, personally.
Yeah, the only reason I bring this offseason stuff now is because, of course, Woj, the puppet for the earpiece for Portland and for Cronin, in the was it ESPN, which is just horrible broadcasting. They have definitely fallen off as the top tier premier media publication company. But anyway, Will was just talking about how Miami has some assets now, blah 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 blah, to potentially trade for a whale. And so obviously they're insinuating that Donovan Mitchell, obviously insinuating that now Jovic and Jaime have definitely developed, have become more valuable throughout their tenure so far with the Miami Heat. So I wasn't ready to talk about off-season rumors and whatnot. And there's obviously so many different avenues that we could talk about. And yeah, I don't know. I'm torn, honestly. Like, realistically, I don't think I would trade both, but it depends on who it is. I don't know if I would do it for a Donovan Mitchell. The only reason I would consider it is because he's 26. He's really good friends with Bam, so he's the same age as Bam. And if we're able to somehow keep Terry Rozier, I mean, I know there's only one ball, but Terry, Bam, Jimmy, and Mitchell, I mean, that's a pretty big four right there, honestly. But yeah, we could we could talk about off-season rumors when the time comes, and even possibly we'll see how Tyler does for the remainder of the playoffs. Because I can even see the Miami Heat trading him for some functional size, like players that we missed out on. I think, like because we know Tyler is going to get pennies on the dollar, like maybe 50 cents. I don't think it's going to be that drastic because obviously he's still a valuable player. But like, if we could hypothetically get like PJ Washington and Gafford somehow, both of them for him directly, because I think the salaries would match up. Like that's something I would hypothetically do now, right? I don't think we're going to get another star for Tyler Hero unless we add both the Jays or one of them and multiple first round picks and all that stuff. So anyway, Major, let the audience know what's your prediction for the rest of the series. Heat in 7.
Gosh, I wish. That would be the greatest moment of my life. But I'm gonna go with Celtics in 5 or 6, probably 5. I don't see us getting swept. I just refuse to believe we're gonna get swept. Maybe we do, but no more than
Wow.
6.
You went on record. I'm going to tweet this for sure. You went on record saying this. I can't believe you actually said this because you're the most optimistic Heat fan. I didn't say delusional or crazy or anything like that. I said the most optimistic, that has the most hope, that has given the most benefit. That's why I love you and appreciate you. But I am shocked, honestly.
No, I always say I'm delusional. I'm not an idiot though. There's just some times where it's idiotic to even act like it.
You're not being delusional today because you said
if we had Jimmy, I'm saying the Heat are winning the series. Like I will go on record saying that. No Jimmy just really puts a hole in my heart, man. I don't even know what to do.
I said me too, but then I'm also thinking about I don't know if Jimmy can this type of Jimmy that we've had in the regular season would even help us against this Boston team per se. But I would definitely give us more hope than Celtics in 5. So Matt, let's finish. What's your prediction? Do you think we're gonna get swept? Do you think we could?
I think I had before the series I had Heat getting swept. Maybe in 5. Maybe. I just think the talent gap without Terry, without Jimmy, without it's just too big.
Without Drew Smith,
without Drew Smith,
no Jay Rich,
yeah, it's all too much. Again, Spo can do a lot to muck it up and get it in the mud, and like if you can get it in the mud for a few of these games, you could potentially steal one. But again, I just think Boston's too talented. I think they have too much firepower. I think this team's a lot better defensively than they were last year. Obviously, their personnel with Drew and KP is better. I just think they're top 7, they're top 8 with Hauser and Pritchard. It's just too overwhelming for Miami to get. Again, like I don't think Miami gets 2. I think the max we go is Celtics in 5. Personally, I would if I had enough guts. You guys can have my guts because it looks like I don't have it. Surprisingly, Major doesn't have any either. But like Heat in 5, regardless. No. But
yeah,
no,
there we go.
I'm on the right track in Major's mind. But no, in all seriousness, I think Miami gets swept. It's just too hard for me to see this team winning a game. But again, you still got to play the games, man. You still got to play the games. Anything can happen. You never know what's going to happen in a 7-game series. You never know what's going to happen in a 12-minute span in a quarter. Like anything can happen, but I don't see Miami winning a game. I'll be nice and say Celtics.
Yeah, Heat in 5 is what I'm picking, but losing in 5 is what I'm picking. And I don't even know. I'm like, I don't want to sound pessimistic, but it's like even if Jason Tatum got hurt, which again I don't wish injury on any single player. Like even if Tatum got hurt for the rest of the series, like I could still see Boston winning in like 5 or 6. Even if they lose their best player, they still have enough to still destroy this plan without Jimmy Butler, without Terry Rozier. But anything can happen. I mean, we're down by 17 or whatever it was, 15 points in the first 3 minutes of the game, and I did not expect us to come back and close it out only down 5. Like that was amazing. Obviously, we made a bunch of mistakes in the second quarter, and then the third quarter we scored 14 points, which we seem to typically do for the last 2 to 3 weeks. Is every game we have one quarter where we score below 16 points, which is super frustrating. But anyway, we did it again, Major. We're 3 for 3, 4 for 4. We say we're going to do 20 minutes. We're at 34 right now, so we're obviously way above the time. This always happens when we talk Miami Heat basketball. I blame Major. I don't blame Matt. But thank you guys so much for hopping on. You guys want to let the audience know where they can find you?
Yeah. As always, Twitter is the biggest thing for me. Major_Passons. I do have an Instagram, not really active on that. I need to get that big up and running. And then 5 Reasons Sports Network. And then a little plug, me and Matt do a podcast together. It's called The Force with Matt and Major. It's about the Sky Force. So if you want to learn about Miami Heat prospects, that is where to go. We keep you updated on everything. We're going to bring some player interviews and some staff on as well. So it's going to be a lot of fun. So go check us out there at 5 Reasons Sports Network.
You stole my plug. No. Twitter handle up here at mph_824_. I think Ethan commented that it was the most complicated handle in the network outside of Alex's. So I have that Instagram, Matt Hanifan _1, I believe. Find me on Twitter. Hoops.com, vendettasportsmedia.com, mountainwestconnection.com. I'm writing for a billion different sites for a billion different people covering a million different things, not just Miami Heat related, but everything related. So yeah, that's really all I got to plug. And obviously the podcast with Major, 5 on the Floor. Please go check that out. We're on there occasionally. Major's on for depressing post-game shows. I'm
2 for 5 now.
2 for 5.
2 for 5.
2 for 5.
Major's ridiculous. He texted me. He's like, I got bad news. Like he said this before the game. I'm like, are you okay? Family emergencies. Bam. You have insider information. Is Bam out? Herro out? And then he's like, no. Even worse. He's like, I'm on post game. That's all he said.
But no, man, I got a bunch of plugs. But yeah, Twitter's where you can find me and all my work at. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate the time, guys. Hopefully we can have you guys back on. Perhaps during this offseason, Major will be the number one guy I go to when it comes to Miami Heat trade speculation and rumors. So we'll do a whole bunch of videos of how we can get Tyler Herro off this team and maybe the Jays. I don't know. We'll see. But anyway, thanks again, guys. Take care.